Hey guys, how you going, and welcome to your 7th Moment.js tutorial. This one is going to be about durations. So as per the documentation, durations are described as being lengths of time. For example, something like 2 hours or 5 weeks or 7 days, they're all examples of being durations, whereas moments are more about being single points in time. For example, the 7th of May at 10:15 p.m. So, with that being said, let's go inside the text editor and actually create a duration using milliseconds. So, I'm going to declare a new variable up here. I'm going to call this variable dur, short for duration. Then down here, I'm going to say dur is equal to moment.duration. I'm going to pass in here 5,000. So basically, this will create a duration object for 5,000 milliseconds. And then I'm going to say console.log dur.humanize. So we have the duration object. I'm calling humanize, the humanize function on the duration object, and this will give us a humanized description of the duration. So I'm going to save this and refresh the browser, and we have right here a few seconds. Okay, so you can also pass in as a second argument to this function the units of the first argument. So for example, I can reassign the value of duration to be 5, and then I can say seconds. So 5 seconds is the same as saying 5,000 milliseconds. So if I save this and refresh, we get the same result. I can of course change this to be something like 1 day, and the same thing works. I can save this and refresh, and we get a day right there. So you can also find out how many of a type of units are in a duration. So I'm going to comment all this stuff out, and then down here I'm going to say console.log. I'm going to create a new duration for 2 weeks. So moments.duration, pass in 2 weeks, and then I'm going to say dot days. So the days method is going to tell us how many days are in the duration. If I was to save this and refresh, we get 14. Now if I was to make this 5 weeks instead of 2 weeks, if I save this and refresh, we now get 4. The reason for 4 is because in the documentation, if you scroll down to the days method, we can see here days is going to reset at 30, and that's why we get 4 for 5 weeks and 14 for 2 weeks. And the same thing works for weeks here. We can see weeks is from 0 to 4. We can see minutes is 0 to 59. So the same concept works for all of these methods when you're trying to find out how many of a certain unit is inside a duration. Now you can also get that value by saying dot get and then pass in days. So dot get days is the same as saying dot days. Save this, refresh, we get the same result. Now you can also find out your duration as a particular unit. So of course now this tells us how many days are inside the duration. Now if I was to say weeks and then as days, like this, so as days will tell us the duration as days. So now save this and refresh, and we get 35. And that is probably the result that most people are going to be after. The same thing works for the as method. So I can say as and then say days, same result. I'll just do as seconds for a bit of demonstration. So 5 weeks as seconds, save this, refresh. There is this many seconds within a duration of 5 weeks. Now it's quite easy to add and subtract time from the duration. So down here I can just say console.log. I can say moment.duration, make a duration of 1 day, for example 1 day. Then I can say dot add 1 week, so passing in the value and then the unit. Then I can say dot humanize. So humanize 1 day and 1 week. Save this, refresh, and we get, of course, nothing. Let's go back inside here and change this to be moments. Okay, so now we get, of course, 8 days as the humanized version of that duration. Quite easily, you can say subtract. So, for example, 1 day, subtract 1 week. Save this, refresh, and we get 6 days. So, of course, when you subtract, 1 week from 1 day, that duration is 6 days. Even though it's negative, it's still 6 days. So a common use case of the duration is using it with the moment.diff function. So down here, I'm going to declare 2 moments. So const m1 equal to moments for the current time. I'm going to add 2 days to that. And then I'm going to say 1 week for the second moment object, so m2. Then I'll say console.log moment.duration. I'm going to pass in here the difference between m2 and m1. So m2.diff m1, and then I can say something like as days, for example, right? Just like that. Okay, so of course the diff method is going to give us the milliseconds between these 2 moments. Then of course duration function, then as days. So save this and refresh. There is 5 days as a difference between this and this moment. And lastly here, we can create an ISO 8601 string for duration. So I'm going to put back this 5 seconds at the top here. Then I'll say log dur.toISO string. Save this and refresh, and we get right here an ISO 8601 string for the duration, PT5S. And that is all for durations. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.